Have we ever wondered how these massive, data-driven websites get built so quickly and reliably? Well, today, we're pulling back the curtain on Django. It's the high-level Python web framework that's an absolute powerhouse, and we're going to see exactly how it turns a simple browser request into a fully rendered web page.
All right, here's our game plan. We'll start with the big picture of what Django even is. Then, we'll dive into the nitty-gritty, the structure with projects and apps, how traffic gets routed with URLs and views, the way data gets displayed with templates, where all that data actually lives using models, and, my favorite part, how it's all managed with the amazing built-in admin panel.
So, first things first, what exactly is Django? I love this tagline, the framework for perfectionists with deadlines. That just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It's this powerful tool designed to help developers build really solid web applications, and fast, without cutting any corners on quality.
And we're not talking about small-time projects here. This framework is the absolute backbone for giants like Instagram, Spotify, and Dropbox. Think about that for a second. These are sites that handle millions and millions of users with just a staggering amount of data every single day. That really shows the kind of power and scalability we're dealing with.
Okay, so the official definition calls it a high-level Python web framework. Let's just break that down real quick. High-level basically means it handles a lot of the boring, repetitive web development stuff for us. It's built on Python, which is of course one of the most popular and readable programming languages out there, and its whole philosophy, it's all about getting things built quickly with a clean, sensible design.
Right, before building anything, a solid blueprint is essential. So let's take a look at how Django structures a website using these two core concepts, projects and apps.
This is such a fundamental concept in Django, and it's something that can be a little confusing at first. The words project and app might sound kind of similar, but their roles are totally distinct and absolutely crucial for keeping a code base organized and ready to scale.
A great way to think about this is to imagine the project as the entire house. It's the main container. It holds all the site-wide configuration, like the main settings and security rules. Now the apps, those are the individual rooms, the kitchen, the living room, a blog feature. Each app handles one specific job, and the coolest part? They're designed to be plug and play. So a well-built blog app could literally be picked up and reused in a completely different project. And getting this whole structure set up is a really straightforward three-step process. First, a single command creates the main project container. Then, another command creates an app for whatever specific feature is being built. Finally, we just need to tell the project that this new app exists by adding its name to a list in the main settings file. And boom, just like that, the blueprint is in place.
Okay, so with the structure in place, let's dive into how Django actually handles a request from the web. When someone types an address into their browser, how in the world does Django know what to show them? Well, this is where the traffic director comes in. It's really the most fundamental question for any web framework, right? There has to be some kind of system that maps the URL a person visits to the specific piece of code responsible for generating the page's content. So the first piece of this puzzle is the view. A view is really just a Python function that acts as the brain of the operation. Its job is to get a request from a user, figure out what needs to be done, like maybe fetch some data or perform a calculation, and then send a response back. All the core logic for any given page lives right inside its view. The second piece is the URL pattern. This is basically the address book. Inside a special file called urls.py, a list of these patterns is created. Each pattern links a specific URL path like /blog or /contact/ directly to a specific view function. So when a request comes in, Django just scans this list, finds the first one that matches, and then hands the request off to the correct view. Simple as that. So the view handles all the logic, but it doesn't usually create the HTML for the page itself. I mean, that would get really messy really fast. So how does Django show the results to the user in a way that's clean and easy to maintain? Well, that is the job of the display layer, templates. Django uses these things called templates, and a template is really just an HTML file, but with some special Django syntax sprinkled in. It defines the structure and the look of the page, but it leaves these little placeholders for any dynamic data that's going to be filled in later by the view. And this is where the magic really happens. The Django templating language lets us put simple logic right inside the HTML. So for example, this tag here, @for item in to-dos per not, It takes a list of to-do items that it got from the view, and it just loops through them, generating a little chunk of HTML for each one. That means no more writing the same code over and over again. The template does all the heavy lifting. And this templating system is just incredibly powerful. We can display variables using these double curly braces, or use conditional logic to show or hide content. But a key feature for sure is template inheritance. This lets us create a base template with all the common stuff, like a header and a footer. Then other pages can just extend this base and only worry about filling in their own unique content. It's an absolute game changer for staying consistent and saving time.
So, all this talk about putting dynamic data into templates raises a pretty obvious question. Where does all this data, the blog posts, the user profiles, the to-do items, where does it actually come from, and how is it stored? Well, this brings us to the data engine, models, and the database.
The answer is Django Models, and this is so clever. Instead of writing a bunch of complex SQL database code, data structures are defined using simple Python classes in a file called models.py. Each class maps directly to a database table, and each property of that class represents a column. This means developers can work with their data using pure Python, which is just a much more intuitive, code-first way of doing things.
Now, how do these Python classes become actual database tables? Django uses this really powerful two-step process called migrations. First, after a model is defined or changed, we run the make migrations command. Django looks at the changes and generates what's called a migration file. It's basically a blueprint of the database changes needed. Then we run the migrate command, and Django takes that blueprint and applies it, updating the database schema to perfectly match the models. It's brilliant.
Okay, so once the models are defined, Django gives us this incredible feature, completely free, right out of the box, a full-blown control panel for managing all the site's data. And this isn't just some basic, clunky tool. It's a fully featured, totally secure, and production-ready admin interface. What it does is it reads the structure of the models and automatically generates a user interface for creating, reading, updating, and deleting records in the database. It's amazing. And activating this admin panel is so simple it's almost funny. We run one command to create an admin user. Then, in a file called admin.py, we add a single line of code to register each model that we want to manage. That is literally it. After logging in, all the site's data is right there, ready to be managed through a clean, intuitive web interface.
So let's just recap this whole elegant flow one more time. A request comes in for URL. The URL router finds the matching view. The view, our logic brain, uses models to talk to the database. It then bundles up that data and hands it off to a template. And finally, the template renders the final HTML, which gets sent back to the browser as the response. See? Each piece has a crystal clear job, and they all work together just seamlessly. So we've seen how Django provides this incredibly powerful, organized, and rapid blueprint for building complex web applications. From routing a request all the way to rendering data from a database, it offers a really clear and efficient path for developers. The only question left is, what amazing things will people build with it?